A quick world wine tour. Like the rest of the business world, the wine industry has gone global with so much important export trade between nations that anyone, anywhere can cultivate an international palate. The five wine-making powerhouses of the European Union are responsible for the two-thirds of the wine imported in the world. The United States has managed to command only 6% of the import market, and a variety of other, smaller producing countries share the remaining 27%. Listed by volumes of wine produced, the world's top 10 wine countries are as follows: France, Italy, Spain, United States, Argentina, Australia, South Africa, Germany, Portugal, and Chile. Most of the non-European or so-called New World's competition is from Australia, where grape production is soaring and the government aggressively promotes wine exportations by helping wineries with overseas advertisement and shipping costs. No matter who consumes fine French wines, they lead the world in prestige, and no wine list in any upscale restaurant or fashionable hotels would be complete without these choices. Patrons who knows wines may expect to see several well-known French wines at very high prices on the list, even if they do not order any of them, along with several wines at lower prices that they would be glad to buy. In every five-star hotel and restaurants and even in bar, you will see a list of fine French wines that are very expensive, but it is worth the money. And according to my study, most of the wine lovers prefer French wine because they have a very distinct flavor. The label on the bottle will carry the name of the well-known vineyard or commune, a district or shipper, a vintage date, and the praise appellation controllee, indicating that all of the government requirements have been met. Rarely will a French wine be identified by the name of the grape. However, as you will see, the same outstanding wine grapes are used all over the world to produce quality wines. In France, the major wine-producing regions are Bordeaux, Burgundy, the Rhone Valley, the Loire Valley, Champagne, and the Alsace. The wines of the Bordeaux region have been famous since Roman times. Bordeaux wine comes in a high-shouldered bottle, and the wine bottle that is used differ from where it is produced in every region. A wine spoken as a Bordeaux means a red wine from Bordeaux. It is also referred to by the British term claret. Bordeaux produces a range of wines from connoisseur dreams to everyday table wines, from more than 50 distinct regions within the Bordeaux area. Nearly all red Bordeaux is made by blending grapes, mainly Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc. The style of the wine depends on the blend, which varies from one producer to another. There are two distinct production areas, divided by the Gironde River on one side and the Medoc and Grapes district. Cabernet is the main grape. On the other side of the river in Pomerol and Saint-Emilion and numerous satellite zones, Merlot and Cabernet Franc tend to dominate the grape blend. Most prestigious are the Bordeaux wines named for the chateau or vineyard that produces them. The best wines from each vintage is usually bottled at the vineyard and carries the phrase Maison Bouteille or Chateau, literally placed in the bottle at the vineyard, or the phrase Mise du Chateau. The rest of the vintage may be sold to a shipper or a negotiant who blends wine from various vineyards to sell under the shipper's label or under a monopole, which is registered brand name. At the top of the Bordeaux quality pyramid are the classified growths chateau wines that were recognized as the leaders as long ago as 1855. When Napoleon III ordered an official classification of French wine, such chateau wines as Lafite Rothschild, Latour, Margaux, Mouton Rothschild, and Haut Brion are known as the first growth and are the most prestigious. There are 65 classified growths in the Medoc and Graves, ranging from first growth to fifth growths. In the Saint-Emilion, 74 chateaux are classified as Premier Grand Cru classes or Grand Cru classes, but they are little known because of Most are too small to produce much. There are also plenty of Bordeaux reds. It's either generic or monofole, blended from wines produced anywhere in the large Bordeaux zone or from vineyards in a specific commune, such as Saint Julien and Saint Estèphe. Some of these wines are outstanding. While throughout most of the Europe, wines are identified only by the regional names, not by the names of the grape variety used in them, and these wines are known as the generic wines. A monopole is an area controlled by a single winery and can be as small as a named vineyard or as large as an entire affiliation origin controllee. In addition to the reds, for which it is famous, Bordeaux produces white wines from a Semillon or Sauvignon grapes. Known from the grapes district are fresh, dry, full-bodied, and fruity. Those from the Sauternes district to the south, although made from the same grapes as the grapes wines, are very different. They are ordinarily sweet and rich. These qualities come from the warm climate and especially from the harvesting method. The grapes are left on the vines until they are overripe and develop Botrytis cinerea, a special mold known as noble rot, or the pourriture noble in French, Edelfuel in German. This mold dries the grapes, concentrating their sugar and flavor. Each bunch is individually selected at its peak of desirability. A vineyard may be handpicked in this way as many as 8 times. The wines from Sauternes and serve are served at the end of the meal, either with dessert or as a dessert. Of the Sauternes wines, Chateau d'Yaume is the ultimate in terms of fame and fortune. Burgundy wines are also belong on the fine wine list. The French wine referred to as Burgundy are the classical reds made from the Pinot Noir grape in the Côte d'Or region. Like the Bordeaux, they are wines of great character and long life. Shift in a Burgundy bottle shown in Figure 6.8. Burgundy vineyards are also classified for quality. The magic phrase here is Grand Cru, which means great growth. Of the Grand Cru vineyards, the most famous are the Roman Conti, Clos de Vogut, and Chambertin, followed by certain hyphenated Chambertins from villages where hyphenated names. Knowing what sort of wine lies beneath the label of the Burgundy wine is far more complicated business than it is for a Burgundy wine. In Bordeaux, each vineyard or chateau is owned by a single family or corporation. But in Burgundy, a single vineyard might be owned by many individuals, each with a few acres or perhaps just a few rows of vines. Each vineyard is an affiliation controllee, and each owner or grower is therefore entitled to make an individual wines with the name of the vineyard on the label. As such, there might be great variation in quality depending on the skill of the grower, and conceivably as many as 5 to 50 different wines of the same name and vintage could come from a single vineyard. Similarity, the phrase "mise en voûte au domaine," which names bottled at the vineyard, does not guarantee quality of consistency. This is because there is no uniformity among growers' products even when they bottled at the vineyard. For this reason, it has become the practice of the Burgundy shippers to buy wines from several growers in a vineyard and make a wine carrying the vineyard label on which they stake their own reputation. What a shipper's wine efforts is consistency, but often at the expense of an individual vineyard character. Many shippers make wines that tend to taste almost like each other in the shipper's house style, regardless of the commune from which the grapes come. As a result, shippers play a valuable role in providing readily available, fairly predictable, decent wine, j- just not the very best. The best Burgundies came from individual growers and are made in a minuscule quantities, and knowing one's way around among them is one of the most challenging tasks that any wines expert can face. The district of Vaugeois is also part of the Burgundy region, but it produces a very different wines from classical Burgundy. The wine called Beaujolais, made from the Gamay grapes, is fresh, light red, with a short lifespan of 2 to 3 years. It too is shipped in the Burgundy-shaped bottle shown in figure 6.8. Unlike most red wines, it is often to serve at a cool cellar temperature. The Vest Beaujolais is identified on its label as Cru Beaujolais, along with the appellation of the commune it comes from. Next is the rank and the appellation Beaujolais villages. The arrival of Nouveau Beaujolais or Nouveau Beaujolais in the United States on the third Thursday of every November is one of the wine's charming celebratory traditions. The young wine, barely 2 months old, is the first time of wine of the new harvest. It is meant to be uncorked and consumed immediately. Although chilled, it is grapey, refreshing, and fun. It has a very short lifespan of only about 4 months. Although Burgundy is probably best known for its red wines, the white wines made from the Chardonnay grapes can be magnificent. They are among the best white wines in the world. One of the reasons Chardonnay has become so desirable all over the world is the success of the Burgundian prototype. The terms white Burgundy encompasses several rather different wines, even though all are made in Chardonnay grapes. The vineyard of Montrachet and its neighbors are one group. Macon wines are another, and Chavlis wines. Montrachet is a small vineyard that produces a white of great prestige and excellence. The vineyard is so famous that its neighbor had hyphenated its name to theirs. Other well-known white Burgundies from these regions are Meursault and Corton Charlemagne. It is said that Charlemagne himself planted this latter vineyard. As with the red Burgundies, there are many small growers in these vineyards and are reliable producers, shippers rather than estate bottling is often the key to quality. Of the white wines of the Macon region, the best known in the United States is the Folie Other than Macon wines with a district or village affiliations are also imported and are often better values. Chavlis is a Burgundy region that produces an entirely different white wines from the others, although it is made from the same Chardonnay grape. In fact, it is seldom called a white Burgundy. It is simply called Chavlis. It is pale, greenish, light, and very dry, with a white taste described as fleety. It is most definitely different from the typical sweet American Chavlis. There are several classifications: Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and Chavlis, in descending order. Quality varies greatly from one vintage to another because of the weather. This cold northern climate does not often give the grape a chance to ripen fully, resulting in a light, crisp personality in the wine. Red wines from the Côtes du Roux district in the Rhone Valley have recently become very interesting to Americans, especially that adventurous group who likes to try something new and different. These wines are far from new. The best-known Châteauneuf-du-Pape vineyard is said to have been planted in the 14th century by Pope Clement V, the first of the French popes who moved the papacy temporarily from Rome to Avignon, hence the name, which means Chateau of the Pope or Vineyard of the Pope. But their wines are different in several ways. They are made from blends of many different, mostly unfamiliar grapes. A single bottle of Chateau d'Eau may contain as many as 13 grape varieties. They are big, deep red, full bodies, Alcoholic wines must be aged many years before they are ready to drink. They have a richness that derives from the grapes ripening in the long, hot growing season of the southern France. Other, other fine Rhone reds such as Heritage and Côte Rôtie are similar in style and pedigree. The district is also the home of Tabel, a fresh, dry, but fruity rose wine. Other group of wines comes from the Loire Valley. The best known are the Folie Fumée, often confused with Folie Fusée, but very different, as well as Sancerre and Vourey. Both Sancerre and Folie Fumée come from the Sauvignon Blanc grapes so popular in the United States today. Although this is also the grape of white Verdot, these Loire wines have a crisper, fruitier style. Vouvray is made in several styles, from bone dry and fruity to sweet to sparkling. Rose d'Anjou is also from the Loire Valley, one of the most popular roses until the advent of white Zinfandel. It is made primarily from Gamay grapes. It has a charming pink color and a touch of sweetness. The Champagne district of France produces the sparkling white wines that bears its name. All French champagnes are blended of wines from several vineyards and carry the name of the shipper or producer rather than that of a vineyard. They are made from both white and dark grapes unless they are labeled Blanc de Blancs, literally white from whites. A French champagne carries a vintage date only if it is from an exceptionally good year. A champagne level indicated its degree of sweetness. The French term might confuse the novice. They range from brut or nature, the direct, extra sec, extra dry, which means that it contains a small added sugar, sec, dry, which actually indicated slight sweetness, demi-sec, semi-dry, which actually is quite sweet, and dox, very sweet, a seldom made style. This French term should appear on a wine list entry and servers should be familiar with them. Most of today's champagnes also makes vintage dated champagnes in good years only, and these super premium wines that is tremendously prestigious, not to mention expensive. Dom Perignon and Crystals are two of the best known. The wine regions of Alsace lies across the Rhine of Germany and grows many of the same grape varietals. Because of the district's cool climate, most of the wines are white. Chefs among the grapes are Rieslings, full bodies, fruity, and slightly sweet. And Gewürztraminer, spicy and full flavored. Unlike the wines of the rest of France, most of the Alsatian wines are varietals. Alsace wines are big, firm, flavorful, and dry. They are unlike any other wines in the world, and they have a small but loyal following of fans. Because they are not especially stylish, they are also excellent values. You will find them in the distinctive tall, slender green bottle required by law as shown in figure 6.8. It is similar to the bottle shape for German wines and look more German than French. Wines from Italy. Italy vies with France as the world's largest wine producer, and it exports more wine to the United States than France does. Italian wines come from the native Italian grapes that are not grown anywhere else in the world, and they can be excellent values. Italy also makes plenty of wines from such well-known grapes as Chardonnay and Cabernet, and these wines are often varietally labeled. The style and character of Italian wines vary tremendously from one region to another depending on climate, grape variety, and local custom. Those labeled with the name of grape from which they are produced are called varietal wines. Most premium wines in the United States are marketed as varietal wines. The buyer is assured that the 75% of the wine in the bottle has been made from the variety of grapes identified as Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Sauvignon Blanc and the likes. The French, Italian, and other Western European winemakers have started only recently to label their wines with the name of the grape from which it has been produced. It is really not a mystery why Italian wines are not as popular as the French wines. Their names are not as familiar to US consumers, and there is no specific government program to help winemakers promote their exported products. Add to that the undeniable fact that Italian wine labels can be difficult to read. Knowing three labels designations might be helpful in determining overall quality. First is the Riserva, means reserve, and in Italy legally means that the winery has aged the wine longer than the standard minimums. It sometimes means the wine has a slight greater alcohol content than non-reserved wines of the same type. Classico means the wine directly from a particular wine producing region. If a wine is a Chianti Classico, for example, it comes straight from Chianti, not neighboring area. Classico superiore means both of the above. The wine is from the Classico part of the region and it has a greater alcohol content. Most of Italy's quality wine production is governed by the DOC affiliation system. This system recognizes that and defines more than 200 types of Italian wines from specific geographical areas. However, unlike France's affiliation system, which actually classifies individual vineyards, DOC does not classify wines by quality. A high level of DOC status is DOCG. The G stands for Garantita, which means guaranteed because every wine must pass an official taste test before being sold. The DOCG system builds in incentives and risks that encourage producers to make quality wines. The DOC classification took effect beginning in the 1973. The DOCG system followed in the 1992 a third generation indication geographica typica, which means typical geographical indication, was created in the 1996 to account for wines that are typical to the region, not quite prestigious enough to fit in the DOC and DOCG categories. Wines that met IGT standards for 5 years are able to move up the DOC category. Some of Italy's best wine, however, exist outside the DOC frameworks, often because their producers have chosen not to participate in the system. They are technically merely Vinada Tavola tables wine, but their high prices are clues that these are serious wines and not too okay. Of the many wine regions in Italy, three of the particular importance to American restaurateurs, Piedmont and Veneto in the northern Italy and Tuscany farther south. In the northwest Italy, Piedmont borders on France and produces two of the Italy's greatest reds, Barolo and the Barbaresco. These wines come from the native Nebbiolo grape. They are big, robust reds of great distinction. Barbaresco being somewhat more delicate than Barolo. In this part of Italy, it is common to label wines with individual vineyard names in addition to the name of the wine itself. Piedmont is also home to Asti Sfumante, a delicious sparkling white wine made by the Charmat bulk method from Muscat grapes. It captures the fruity freshness of the grapes and is sweet, making it more appropriate with dessert than other sparkling wines. In the northeastern Italy, Veneto is famous for the trio of wines from Veron, Suave, a white, Bardolino, a light red, and the Valpolicella, a medium-bodied red. They are all made from blends of local native Italian grapes along with its two neighboring regions, Friuli and Trentino. Veneto also makes many varietally labeled Cabernets and Chardonnays. Excuse me. Because of the weather is relatively cool and Italians prepare their wines slightly on the acidic side to accompany food better, these wines will usually be lighter than the counterparts from other parts of the world. Pinot Grigio is a popular white wine from these areas. Tuscany is Italy's other great red wine region. It is the home of Chianti, a DOCG wine that has been improving its quality and image since the mid-1970s. Chianti is the blend of four grapes, predominantly Sangiovese, a native grape grown throughout central Italy. Once known as a rough young wine in a cute, straw-covered bottle, it is now taken more seriously in the wine community and is aged in the Bordeaux-shaped bottle. Chianti Reserve, for example, is aged at least 3 years. The Vest Chianti is from the Chianti Classico district, often identified by a black rooster on neck of the bottle. Other DOCG wines from Tuscany is the red Brunello di Montalcino, made from a type of Sangiovese called Brunello. It is considered Italy's most expensive red. Many producers in Tuscany are now making premium quality reds and whites that are not DOC in the manner mentioned earlier. These wines are often made with Cabernet and Chardonnay, using the most sophisticated wine-making techniques. As a result, they are richer and fuller than a Cabernet and Chardonnay from the Northeast and considerably more expensive. You will often find enough information for 2 levels on an imported wine. Of the many wines made in other Italian wine districts, Orvieto, Verdisip, and Frascati, all made from native grape varieties, are popular in the United States. All three are light, crisp white. There are also good white varietals made from Bervesio, Pinot Blanc, and Pinot Grigio grapes, a varietal of a different sort of Lambrusco, which is easy to drink and reminiscent of sparkling grape juice. Spain has its own wine affiliation system, with more than 50 Dominación de Origen